Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 4,678 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. While we are going back to the Switch, well, thank you guys so much for all the nice comments last week. I think I had one calling me a moron. Whatever. There was one correction though I will want to bring up. I feel like I made this mistake before. In Pikmin 3, there is not time gating with the amount of Pikmin you can have on the field. So I believe you can have up to 100 immediately at the beginning of the game. I think my confusion is that in Pikmin 3, you have 3 different characters you can control, and then having that 100 Pikmin dispersed between the 3 of them makes it so that it feels like there's a little bit of lack of Pikmin you have under your control. But yes, I was wrong on that one. So thank you guys. Once again, I'm not perfect. You gotta remember, sometimes I'm talking about games that I have not played for 10 years. And yeah, but we got another Switch video here today. Another 10 games you should pick up before the prices go up. And yes, if the prices are actually going down, even better. Get them cheaper. Alright, that sounds good to you? Let's check it out.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, the first game we're going to talk about today, I believe is still only available to get from playasia.com. And this will happen from time to time, especially with certain RPGs where there will be a digital release, but there is no physical release. Well, there was of this if you pre-ordered, and it is still available, and that is the Saga Frontier Remaster. And this is the first one. They actually just released the second one as a stealth drop, a month ago? I don't know if there's a physical edition of that one coming out, but Saga Frontier Remastered, and what's cool on this one is that they actually went and did some additional effort here. So there is a new character they added, a new scenario. I always say that the game Octopath Traveler, Live Alive, they feel similar to a Saga Frontier game. And I have this on the PS1. This was the 4th RPG I ever played, or 3rd RPG, because what I did is I started with, I started with Final Fantasy VII, then I got Final Fantasy Tactics, then I got Breath of Fire 3, and then before Final Fantasy VIII came out, I saw my buddy had Saga Frontier, and he had not steered me wrong on the other 3. Well, Saga Frontier is kind of where I hit the wall. This can be a very, very difficult game, as well as a very obtuse game. I believe they ended up beating it by doing a strategy guide. But when I was a kid, and even still now, I'm kind of stubborn with that. I don't like relying on strategy guides. I want to figure it out myself, which can lead to a lot of frustration, but it also makes me very good at video games that require a lot of trial and error and recall. And the thing with this game is that you will just get into these points where you can get trapped. So if you progress too far in one of the storylines, so originally there was 7 storylines, now there's 8. They don't really interact, or if they do, I don't know, because I never actually beat the game. I would get through a decent amount of the storyline for one particular character, and then I would find I would get stuck. One of the more nefarious ones was when I was playing as either Blue or Rouge. Rouge meaning red. And I got to a negative zone, or a kind of like a dark zone area, where the enemies were just destroying me, and I had no way to just grind on them and level up. And that's why I abandoned it. But this was a remaster I was very much looking forward to. Finding out I had a physical edition, it stopped me from playing it, and then life comes up. I haven't had a chance to play it. It is still sealed, but I am looking forward to finally beating this game someday. One of the nice things about the Switch is there are a lot of excellent PS1 era RPGs. They got remastered, or sometimes even reimagined, or what is it? Remaster, remade, or got remade for the system. And this one's kind of a nice in-between, because it still looks like the original Saga Frontier, but they added some new content, which is a win-win. Alright, next game. This was actually not a launch title on the Switch, but I want to say within the first week or two. It was a game that I fell in love with as a Steam release, if you can believe it. Yes, I did dabble into the computer PC master race a little bit, especially there in between 2013, 2016. And that's how I first played this game, and that is the Binding of Isaac. And this is Binding of Isaac Afterbirth. So finally, when I say Afterbirth, it's accurate. And I know that they've had several releases since then, I believe. Rebirth, this and that. I think there's even another one coming up. I like these games, but they very much are... It's a roguelike that is very, very... based on your luck of the run, and you need to get familiar with what the weapons and items do in order to know the synergies, and it just gets a little bit too far down the rabbit hole for me to want to put so much time into it, especially because there's hundreds and hundreds of items you have to learn, as well as nuances, the art style. It's made by Ed McMillan, who is hopefully... Mugenics comes out this year, because I originally went out and got cats back in 2013 because I was so excited about Mugenics back when it kind of evolved over the years, but I'm looking forward to it. Hard to believe it's been 12 years. But this is fun. It's fun. It takes that kind of Legend of Zelda dungeon feel. You go through different levels, and then you have boss fights, and it's always the same, but there are different pathways you can go. So you can eventually get to hell. You can go and have different characters even that you're going through as. And it's of the era of around when Super Meat Boy came out. I want to say this was Ed McMillan's first game by himself after that success. And it's just a lot of fun, very zany, and one of those games that has just continued to the point where I kind of don't like it. Because if you want to go back and play the original iteration of the game, you can't. Because it gets these free updates, which, at a certain point, make a sequel. Imagine not being able to play the original Mega Man because they added the charge shot, but it was still the original Mega Man. That's kind of what's happening with these games nowadays, and I wish developers would just make a sequel. I know not everyone's like me where they're willing to buy an identical game, but I like going back and playing different versions, hence sequels. Anyways, that's a fun one to pick up. That got expensive for a while, as well as if you are a collector, this was the first Switch game that came with a manual. And once again, harkening back to that Zelda influence, it has a Legend of Zelda 1 style manual in it. But a fun game, nonetheless, and one I'm glad to have on the Switch. Now, here's a fairly recent release, going back to Super Famicom games that never came out here. There was even a PS1 version of it that didn't come out here, though a lot of people are confused on that, and that is Clock Tower Rewind. So Clock Tower was made by Human Entertainment. It came out, I want to say in 95 or 94, and it was one of the original horror games, and you don't actually control anyone. So the main character, Jennifer, you're an orphan, and a bunch of other orphan girls go out to this big mansion where you're about to be adopted, and then the lights go out, and all your friends get murdered brutally, and then a giant dude with scissors starts chasing you, which everyone started referring to as Scissors Man. But with this, it's more of a point-and-click adventure game, where you click on the screen and then Jennifer moves to it. So you don't directly control her whatsoever. Now, there was a PS1 remake of this that came out in Japan as well, but we here in the States did not get that one either. The first Clock Tower game released in the United States was actually Clock Tower 2, though it's confusing because it's just labeled as Clock Tower. Then Clock Tower 3 is labeled as Clock Tower 2, and so on and so forth, until I think the last game to come out for us was Clock Tower 3 on the PS2, which I believe was Clock Tower 4. And then there's a prequel or something, another one we didn't get. But yes, this is the original, the Super Famicom one. It was released by Limited Run Games, I know. But another game I wanted to have physically, and a fun game to play around Halloween, as well as there are multiple endings in it. Like, you can actually go and drive away. There are different endings you can get where some of your friends survive, some of this happens. There's even fun tropes where the Scissors Man will stalk you through the game, and he will pop out at random from different areas, and then you need to use certain areas of the background to then, temporarily defeat him. And it's finding those interactions that make for a lot of fun, replay value, but not endlessly. I originally covered this game back in 2015 on the Super Famicom, and I had a good time with it, but it is definitely... It is a little unnerving, not gonna lie. It is a little unnerving, and it is probably the first of the stalker genre game where you really cannot fight. Like you get into a corner, you're gone. Now it's got a generous save and reload system, so you don't have to worry about losing too much progress. But it's play it, and it's easy to see why this game did not get localized in the United States in the mid-90s. All right. Okay, moving on here. This is a game I teased last week, and this is actually the rare one for this series. When it came out, I think it was a $40 or $50 game. I actually picked this up through the damn QVC code that comes up all the time, where you, for first-time QVC people, you can get a massive discount on a game, and they were doing this for Switch games pretty much for the last 3-4 years until now. I think they've gotten all of us to sign up for one. But the game I used my code on was Pikmin 1 and 2. And yes, this one is hard to find. This one's very hard to find. A lot of fun. So my favorite game is Pikmin 2. I enjoy the fact that yes, it has timed gameplay, but then when you go into the cave system, it is untimed. And yes, you have to, in order to beat the game, you need to clear all the caves, but the caves are kind of like mini boss rush modes, or not boss rush, but like mini dungeon encounters where there's a boss at the end, as well as they're the only way you can recruit more purple and more white Pikmin for your team. And purple and white Pikmin are awesome. And the first game is still pretty damn solid. It's a game where you have 30 days in-game to collect all these items. Your ship crash lands onto a planet, and then you got to find the remaining pieces of your ship. In Game 2, you're going back to that planet as Olimar and his friend Luigi or Louis, and you have to go and find items to sell to then pay off some huge debt. And I've always talked about how Toe Jam and Earl is one of my favorite games ever made, and that might be part of the reason why I have such a soft spot for Pikmin, is because the Pikmin formula is the same exact setup as Toe Jam and Earl, and it's just very, very fun. In fact, the first game, you're going collecting ship pieces. That basically is Toe Jam and Earl 1, just instead of finding presents, you're finding Pikmin. You got the red Pikmin that are the fighters, yellow that are the ones that can jump really high, blue that can swim. That's kind of the basic premise. As the series continued, the red were always immune to fire, but then they introduced electricity, where yellow were immune to electricity, as well as when you brought the purple Pikmin, they can carry the strength of 10 Pikmin, and then the white Pikmin are immune to poison, which are all just fun nuances to interact with. There's a couple of things that would pop up in Pikmin 1. For instance, there's a spore cloud that would turn Pikmin into these dancing Pikmin. You have recurring enemies across the... I love this series so much. I cannot recommend picking this one up enough, and give Pikmin 2 a shot. It's still my favorite one. All right, speaking of Genesis games that still hold a big place in my heart, so I had 2 games on the Genesis that I kept. I kept Toe Jam and Earl, and I kept Mutant League Hockey. Now, there was another sports title called Mutant League Football. I was not as big a fan of it. You would think I would be, being an actual fan of football, but those EA mid-90s NHL games, man, Mutant League Hockey was just built on that engine. Well, the hockey version never got much play, but a few years ago there was a Kickstarter trying to bring back Mutant League Football, and then out of nowhere, someone actually did make a spiritual successor. I don't think it was related to the Kickstarter, but it came out, and it's called Mutant Football League. And what's fun about this is that a lot of the teams are based on real cities. So, like the Carolina Reapers, or, you can clearly tell which NFL team they're spoofing. Though, of course, there was no San Francisco 49ers fake team, but hey, I digress. But this is a very fun football game that it makes no sense. There are tons of hazards on the field, like saw blades. You're beating up and killing the different team all the time. Like, they blow up just good, and just like they do in the Genesis games. You can do special plays like bribing the ref, attacking the ref. And when I played it, I swear, every time a good play went my way, somehow the other team could do something like rewind and take the ball back, or, they bribed the ref and got the ball back. I don't know how they did that, but I still ended up winning the game. And it's not a great game, don't get me wrong. But much like Mutant League Hockey was at its best when you were playing with a friend, this is another game where if you like football games but don't want something that's as competitive as a Madden or as ridiculous, and just want to have some good old Blitz style fun, You know, this is about as close as you can get to it, and not nearly as bad as something like Blood Bowl. So, highly recommend picking up that one. I think I picked it up for like $30. It is more expensive than I would imagine it should be, but there you go. That is one you should take a look out for. Okay, now here's a fun one that my wife surprised me with. So, Jen likes to buy games for me that I don't ask for because she's wonderful, and it's also just fun. And every so often she'll take a risk at GameStop or see a game and say, wow, I don't think he has this, or I don't think he would buy this. Let's take a chance on it and see if it's worth a damn. And this was a game she got me for Christmas, I want to say in 2023 maybe. And that game is Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. And it's a dumb, stupid name, but it's actually turned out to be pretty damn fun. This is a Zelda clone. It is very much a classic top-down 2D Zelda clone. Now, it's not very long. You could probably can beat it in a few hours. And I think she got it for $20, so it's not an expensive game. There's a sequel that just came out, I believe, called Turnip Boy Robs a Train or something. But more or less, the way this game plays out, it's kind of the classic Tom Nook scenario where a banker comes and says, hey, you owe me money because I took your property and you got to go pay me back. And in this, you're going around and just interacting with other vegetables and fruits. You find weapons, you get a watering can and find a sword, and just, it's very much a Zelda clone. It's a fun, zany Zelda clone with some humor that is, you know, it's very it's very 2020s, but for some reason it works. In this game, it works much more so than some of the other ones I played that are trying to do this. But if you don't like indie game randomness, then this might be another one of those indie games that just doesn't appeal to you. It appealed to me, as well as Zelda clone. I'm sold. 2D Zelda clone, I'm in. I don't even care if it's terrible. All right, here's a game that I really did not care for. I may have kickstarted this. I can't remember. It was one of those earlier ones where it had a really cool looking art style that evoked that 16-bit feel. And this is right around when everyone was kind of doing more of the 8-bit indie games. And so this one came out. I want to say 2016, 17-ish. And it looked interesting. I just didn't like it that much, but a lot of people do. So that's why I'm going to bring it up, is that, hey, I might be wrong. I've done a full video on it, but I know I had some even good friends at the time who absolutely loved this game. And that is Owlboy. So Owlboy reminds me of a Genesis game. And I'm not a huge fan of the Genesis. Once again, I'm a moron. So that might be part of why I didn't like it. But in this game, you are Owlboy, shocker. And the way you do damage in this game is you will pick up and fly around with one of your different companions. And each companion will have a different attack. So one will have kind of a spread shot. One will have kind of a direct machine gun. And you have to navigate levels using them by dropping them down, flying off, picking them up. There's stealth sections. There's a lot of fun ideas that go into this game, but I just didn't like it. I really didn't like it. I didn't like the feel. I didn't like the art style. I thought it was too bright. I didn't like the story. But it is one that a lot of people have said is very good. And I gotta tell you, it's a competent game. It has great controls. It has great feel to it. Even though the hitboxes are too damn big, because when you're moving around, you're flying and then you have to pick up somebody, so your damn character sprite takes up more than half the screen, so get used to a lot of annoying damage. But if it looks interesting, give it a shot. Now here was another one of the games that originally was on the Wii U. It is a fun co-op game too that my wife and I played, so when they came out with a Switch version of it, I had to pick it up, and that was Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. And this game came out, was only $40. I don't know what it is now, but it's a very, very simple game. Basically, it's based off of the Captain Toad levels from Mario 3D World, where you will have Toad who can't jump, he can only move forward, but you can spin the plane of looking. So you can see it at it's a 3D angle that you spin around, kind of like in Final Fantasy Tactics or in a tactical game when you spin the ground. And in spinning it, you will then find alternate pathways, or you'll find things that you can go in that you did not know. Maybe there's a big wall that you turn around, it's actually hollow, so you can go around and then maneuver in there. There's an elevator that gets you up. And it's got a co-op mode that, every level ends with a boss fight. still to this day, my wife and I haven't beaten this because we just when I start games with Jen, it's just there's only so much time in the day. But it's another good one that I would like for us to play, or who knows, my daughter might want to play something like that because it's very low stress, but a lot of fun. As a lot of Nintendo games can be. All right, last couple ones we got here. So this was a game that is it used to be the holy grail on this original Xbox, or at least one of the most expensive games on the original Xbox. It was a $100 game when there weren't many $100 games on it. And then it got a surprise remaster on modern consoles at the time. So I think Switch, PS4, those kind of systems. And it came out and went. And I believe the Xbox version went down in price, but no one really talks about this game that much. It reminds me a lot of the Destroy All Humans game as far as the vibe and feel. And that is Stubbs the Zombie, Rebel Without a Pulse, right? Yeah, Rebel Without a Pulse. Classic play on Rebel Without a Cause. So in this game, it's like an old 1950s, 60s aesthetic. You just come out of the ground randomly and you want to eat brains. So you eat people's brains, and there's this big helper robot that apparently doesn't know you're an undead zombie. So they help you around, and when you eat people's brains, it also brings them back to life as your zombie horde, which then you can control, kind of. And it's just, that's it. There's not much to it. It's a zany game. Like I said, it reminds me of Destroy All Humans. But I played it for a little bit. Got to the point where you're driving in a tank and shooting out these bullets. And there's not much substance to it. It's kind of like you have a fun premise, you have fun mechanics, but you don't have much there to go with it. Now, maybe if I'd played the game longer, I would have uncovered some more to it. But from what I've looked at it, I feel like I've kind of seen the breadth of that game. It's going to have a very off-the-wall, really ridiculous story. The mechanics are fun, but it's not a super solid game. And then it helps me understand, okay, I can see why this game was a hidden gem and not necessarily a system seller. Because it's not as good as Destroy All Humans, in my opinion. All right, the last game we're going to talk about this week was a much requested and much anticipated game that kind of came and went, and we have not heard anything since. And it's kind of a shame because when it came out, it got good reviews. People enjoyed it, but it kind of just reinforces why this series disappeared in the first place, it seems. And that is Mega Man 11. So everyone remembers Mighty Number 9 coming out. It was a huge Kickstarter. Everyone backed it. Anime fans on prom night, all that kind of stuff, and just everyone lambasted it. And then finally, after the dust settled on that, then Capcom came and said, hey, we're doing Mega Man 11, because if you remember, Mega Man 9 and 10 were digital only games. Mega Man 8 before that was on the PS1, and then there was Mega Man 7 on the Super Nintendo. So it's been a long time because they went to the X series. So Mega Man 11 kind of harkens back to that original style. I believe they still kept the mechanics from Mega Man 4. So unlike 9 and 10, which went back to the pre-Mega Man 3 where you could slide and charge, this goes back to the NES style Mega Mans, but it strips it back down to the basics. So then they added a lot of other nuance as far as they had a red and a blue gun that would make the levels interact. And then the art style, you would have some people said they loved the art style, some people that weren't crazy about it. I always felt not crazy about it, to be honest. I don't know what it is when it looks too it's a very interesting art style. It just wasn't for me, and that's kind of me with this game in general. Is I was not a Mega Man fan growing up. I went through and I played through Mega Man 1 through 7 in a very, very fast clip with my neighbor at the time back in 2014, though he did most of it, and I was not that great at it. And then I really anticipated this one, picked it up, and didn't care much for it, and then not having a Mega Man 12 hasn't really bothered me, though I would like to see it. I enjoy these kind of series, these long-running things, and it's also how often do you get to a game that has 12? Generally, they rename it, or they put in subtitles or do this or that, so having a nice, clean naming convention, Mega Man X notwithstanding. However, it just wasn't for me, man. It just wasn't for me, which is sad. I was hoping I'd become one of the Mega Man crew on this. Just didn't happen. But anyways, that is another 10 games you guys should go out immediately and spend all your money on, especially because they're getting cheaper, so get them now. thank you all so much. It's just kind of crazy the amount of people love these Switch videos, come back, come and check out the old videos, commenting. I saw people, leaving nice comments about the passing of my cat from a few months ago, which thank you guys so much to all the returning subscribers. You guys are the best. Let me know whatever kind of content you want to see. I am hopefully going to be able to buy a new computer here soon, so maybe we'll finally be able to get some live streaming going one of these days, whenever I have time. So probably never, but I'd love to interact more with you guys. I love getting, like I say, I read all the comments. I just have found if I respond to the comments that it hurts me in the algorithm, because why not? So maybe I should take some suggestions, like opening a Discord or, doing a live stream. That'd be fun. But let me know kind of what you guys think. If you enjoyed this week's video, as always, leave a like, do that kind of stuff. It's been so nice getting a hold of you guys. Take care.